Most people think cybersecurity is about hackers, malware, and dramatic breaches. But in the UK, cybersecurity is not mainly a technical problem. It's a national system. A system that connects government departments, intelligence services, regulators, infrastructure operators, private companies, and local authorities. It runs quietly every day, whether there's a crisis or not. And once you see how that system actually works, something becomes obvious. Cybersecurity in the UK is less like a war and more like a permanent safety and resilience machine. In this video, I'm going to explain how UK cybersecurity actually works, not as a list of tools, but as a real-world operating model. We'll look at what the NCSC actually does and what it doesn't do, how critical national infrastructure is protected in practice, how incidents are detected, reported, coordinated and recovered from, and how the UK's cybersecurity approach is shaped by law, governance and national security in ways most people outside the UK don't realise. I'm going to do this with UK-specific detail, real organisational structures, and realistic incident scenarios. Because if you want to understand UK cybersecurity properly, you need to understand the UK system, not generic Silicon Valley cybersecurity. Before we start, let me give you the simplest possible mental model. The UK cybersecurity system has 3 layers. Layer 1 is every organisation protecting itself. Banks protect banks, hospitals protect hospitals, energy companies protect energy companies, local councils protect local councils. Layer 2 is regulation and supervision. Regulators don't just fine companies, they shape cybersecurity requirements, enforce baseline controls, and run audits, reviews, and resilience expectations. Layer 3 is national coordination. This is where the UK government and national security organisations step in, not to do everyone's cybersecurity for them, but to set strategy, provide threat intelligence, coordinate major incidents, and protect the country's most critical systems. The key point is this. The UK cybersecurity system is designed around the assumption that breaches will happen. So the real question is not how do we stop all attacks? The real question is how do we detect, contain, coordinate and recover fast enough that the UK keeps functioning? That's the core philosophy. Quick note before we go deeper. If you want UK tech explained properly, not generic American takes, subscribe. This channel is basically a UK tech encyclopedia covering everything from payments, identity, and government digital services to national resilience, defence planning, and cybersecurity. Let's define the problem properly. When people say UK cybersecurity, they often imagine one of 2 extremes. Either the UK government is secretly running a giant cyber command centre, or cybersecurity is just private companies buying firewalls. Both are wrong. UK cybersecurity is a distributed system made of operators, regulators, national coordination, and a large ecosystem of suppliers, consultants, and managed service providers. The most important thing to understand is that the UK is not trying to build a single central cyber defence force. It is trying to build a resilient national cyber posture built around 4 ideas. Security is a governance problem. Cybersecurity is tied to national infrastructure. The UK is heavily intelligence-led, and incident response is the true test of the system. Now, I'm going to say something that might annoy some people. In the UK, cybersecurity is not mainly about technology. It's about institutions. Because you can buy all the tools you want, but if reporting, decision-making, escalation and responsibility are unclear, you will still fail. This is why the UK has invested so heavily in organisations like the NCSC. The NCSC, the National Cybersecurity Centre. If you're outside the UK, you might assume the NCSC is like the FBI Cyber Division or US Cyber Command. It's not. The NCSC is part of GCHQ. This means it sits inside the UK's signals intelligence and cyber expertise ecosystem. But the NCSC is not mainly an offensive organisation. Its public-facing mission is defensive. Its job is to help protect the UK through threat intelligence and guidance, support for critical national infrastructure, incident coordination for significant events, national-level advisories and alerts, security standards and frameworks, and partnerships with industry. Here's what the NCSC does not do. It doesn't run cybersecurity for every UK organisation, magically prevent ransomware, replace your IT team, or act as a private incident response service for everyone. In most cases, if your organisation gets attacked, you still need your internal IT and security team, your managed service provider, your incident response provider, your legal and compliance teams, your communications team, and your executive decision makers. The NCSC is the national level coordination and expertise layer. It helps when the incident is serious enough that it affects national infrastructure, national security, public trust, or a large portion of the economy. One of the biggest misunderstandings is that people think the NCSC is mainly reactive, like it only appears when something goes wrong. But the NCSC is also proactive. It tries to shift the baseline security of the entire UK. The most obvious example is something called active cyber defense. This sounds like hacking back, but it's not. Active cyber defense is about making the UK harder to attack at scale, not by chasing attackers, but by removing common attack paths. This includes blocking malicious domains, reducing spoofing and email impersonation, detecting phishing infrastructure, providing protective DNS services, helping organizations implement modern email security, and working with internet providers and registrars. The UK approach here is subtle. It's not about dramatic operations. It's about reducing the total attack surface of the country. This is one of the most UK approaches you'll see, because it's not a market solution and it's not purely a military solution. It's a state capability designed to quietly improve national safety. Now this leads us into the next layer, critical national infrastructure. If there is one place where cybersecurity becomes a true national survival issue, it's CNI. Critical national infrastructure is the set of systems the UK cannot function without. If CNI fails, you don't just lose money, you lose safety, public order, trust, and the ability to govern. CNI sectors include energy, water, transport, telecommunications, finance, healthcare, food supply, emergency services, government itself, and defense-related systems. Here's the key point. CNI is not just physical. Modern CNI is cyber-physical. Power grids rely on digital control systems. Water treatment plants rely on operational technology. Telecoms rely on software-defined networks. Hospitals rely on IT systems for scheduling, diagnostics, and patient records. And even transport is increasingly digital. This creates a problem because the cybersecurity needs of CNI are different from normal IT. In normal IT, you can patch and reboot. In operational technology, you often cannot because uptime is safety. So the UK has built a model where CNI protection is achieved through operators doing security, regulators enforcing requirements, and the NCSC supporting and coordinating. Let's make this real. Who are the actual organisations involved? The UK CNI cybersecurity ecosystem has 5 major categories of actors. First, the operators. These are the companies and organisations that run the infrastructure. National grid, water companies, telecom providers, banks, NHS trusts, transport operators, and cloud and data centre providers. Second, the regulators. This is where the UK differs from a lot of countries because UK regulators are not just economic regulators, they are resilience and security regulators. Ofcom in telecoms, Ofgem in energy, the Financial Conduct Authority and Prudential Regulation Authority in finance, the Information Commissioner's Office for Data Protection, the Care Quality Commission and NHS structures in healthcare. Third, the government departments. Departments set policy, strategy and oversight. The Cabinet Office, the Home Office, DSIT, the Ministry of Defence, the Department of Health and Social Care, the Treasury and others. Fourth, the National Security and Intelligence Ecosystem, GCHQ, and by extension the NCSC. But also wider structures that coordinate national security. And fifth, the supplier ecosystem. This is a huge part of the real world because most UK organisations do not build their cybersecurity in-house. They buy it, they outsource it, they rely on managed service providers, cloud providers, security vendors, consultancies, and incident response firms. Now I'm going to give you a human opinion here. This supplier ecosystem is both necessary and dangerous. Necessary because the UK does not have enough cybersecurity talent to do everything internally. Dangerous because it creates systemic dependency. If too many organisations rely on the same suppliers, a single supplier breach becomes a national event. This is not theoretical. This is exactly what happened globally with supply chain compromises. So in the UK, supply chain risk is now one of the biggest cybersecurity priorities. Which brings us to the next question. How does incident response actually work? Not the fantasy version, the real version. Let's build the real incident response flow as a pipeline, because in practice, UK incident response is not one event. It's a sequence of decisions and escalations. Step 1 is detection. Most incidents are detected in one of 4 ways. Internal monitoring, a managed service provider or SOC, a third party like a bank, supplier or customer, or law enforcement or intelligence alerts. In the UK, detection quality varies massively. Large banks and telecoms detect quickly. Local councils and small public bodies often detect late. That is not a moral judgment, it's a resource reality. Step 2 is initial triage. Once detected, the organisation asks, is this real? What systems are affected? Is it ransomware, data theft, disruption, or fraud? Is it still ongoing? Do we need to isolate systems? Do we shut down operations? Here's where the first hard decision happens. In CNI and public services, shutting down systems can cause real-world harm. So, the UK incident response system is designed to allow for controlled degradation, not just full shutdown. Step 3 is containment and stabilisation. This is where organisations try to stop the bleeding by isolating networks, disabling accounts, blocking malicious domains, restoring from backups, bringing in IR teams, and stabilising operations. Step 4 is reporting and notification. Now we hit the UK's reporting web. Depending on the incident, you may need to notify the ICO if personal data is affected. Sector regulators like Ofcom or Ofgem. Law enforcement, often Action Fraud or the NCA depending on scale, the NCSC if it's significant, and sometimes the Cabinet Office or relevant departments. Yes, this is messy because the UK system is not a single reporting line. It's a multi-authority system. But there is a reason for that. Different authorities care about different things. The ICO cares about data protection and legal compliance. A sector regulator cares about service continuity and resilience. Law enforcement cares about crime. The NCSC cares about national-level cyber threats. And government departments care about public impact. So UK reporting is not one form. It's a multi-dimensional escalation. Step 5 is national coordination if required. Most incidents never reach this level, but when they do, it's because the incident affects multiple organisations, threatens a CNI sector, has national security implications, or causes major public disruption. At this point, the NCSC may coordinate, and government crisis coordination structures may activate. I'm going to be blunt. The UK does not solve incidents at this level by sending in a cyber SWAT team. What it does is coordinate information, align decisions, share threat intelligence, support technical understanding, and manage public messaging and confidence. Step 6 is recovery, and this is where most organisations fail because recovery is slow. Restoring systems, rebuilding networks, reissuing credentials, revalidating data, reopening services, and dealing with legal, financial, and reputational consequences. Recovery can take weeks or months, and in the public sector it can take longer. Step 7 is lessons and resilience improvement. This is where the UK system tries to improve itself through post-incident reviews, regulatory investigations, security uplift programs, supplier reviews, and in some cases structural reforms. Now, this is the ideal pipeline. Reality is messy. So let's make this more concrete with realistic UK incident scenarios. Scenario 1. Ransomware in a local council. A local authority runs housing services, council tax systems, social care administration, planning applications, and local infrastructure contracts. A ransomware attack hits, systems go down, and the council has limited internal cybersecurity capability. So it calls its IT provider, the provider calls an incident response firm, and the council must decide whether to shut down everything, isolate, or keep critical services running. Reporting triggers the ICO if personal data is involved, possibly central government if services are severely impacted, and potentially the NCSC if the incident is part of a wider campaign. The real problem is not just restoring systems, it's restoring trust and ensuring the council can still deliver services while degraded. Scenario 2. Supply chain compromise in a healthcare IT supplier. This is one of the scariest scenarios. A supplier provides software used across multiple NHS trusts. The supplier is compromised, malicious updates propagate, and now it's no longer a single incident, it's a systemic event. The response involves trust IT teams, NHS structures, supplier incident response, potentially the NCSC, and public communications. This is where UK cybersecurity becomes national resilience, because healthcare disruption is not a financial inconvenience. It's a patient safety issue. Scenario 3. Telecoms attack affecting national connectivity. Telecoms in the UK are heavily regulated for good reason, because telecoms are the backbone of everything. An attack that disrupts a major provider can affect emergency services, banking, transport, and government services. The response involves the telecom operator, Ofcom, the NCSC, potentially cabinet office coordination, and depending on the cause, law enforcement and intelligence. This is where the UK system must manage technical containment, service restoration, and public stability, because panic is itself a risk. Scenario 4. Financial Sector Cyber Event. UK finance is one of the most cyber-mature sectors, but also one of the most targeted. An incident may involve fraud, payment disruption, data theft, or a coordinated attack. The response triggers internal security, the FCA and PRA, the Bank of England in some cases, law enforcement, and potentially national-level coordination. What's unique here is that finance is a confidence system. The UK cannot allow the public to believe payments are unsafe, so communications and continuity are as important as technical response. Let's step back. What makes the UK cybersecurity system different? First, it is institution-led. Second, it is intelligence-led. Third, it is resilience-focused. And fourth, it is built around CNI. This leads to a key insight. The UK does not treat cybersecurity as an optional IT feature. It treats it as a component of national governance. Now I'll give you another opinion. This approach is stronger than many people think because it accepts reality. It accepts that attackers exist, breaches happen, systems fail, and the goal is to ensure the UK keeps functioning anyway. However, there is a weakness, and the weakness is uneven capability. The best UK organisations are world-class, but the worst are extremely vulnerable, and the gap between them is where attackers thrive. So the future of UK cybersecurity is not mainly about inventing new tools, it's about raising the baseline across local government, SMEs, suppliers, health and education. Because attackers don't need to beat the strongest target, they only need to find the weakest one that connects into the system. So what is the UK doing next? You can summarise it into 5 priorities. Improving baseline security through standards and frameworks, securing supply chains, improving incident reporting and coordination, investing in cyber skills and capability, and protecting CNI against both cyber and physical threats. You can see this in the NCSC's ongoing guidance, regulatory resilience work, national cyber strategies, and public-private partnerships. But the biggest change you'll see over the next few years is this. The UK will increasingly treat cybersecurity like safety engineering, not like IT. Meaning it will become more formal, more audited, more regulated, and more tied to operational resilience, especially in sectors like finance, telecoms, energy, and healthcare. Let's end with a practical takeaway. If you want to understand UK cybersecurity, remember this. The UK cybersecurity system is not one organisation, one law, or one framework. It is a living network of institutions, operators, regulators, and national coordination. The NCSC is the centre of gravity, but the system works only if operators take responsibility, regulators enforce resilience, suppliers are controlled, and incident response is treated as a permanent capability. And if you work in UK tech, this matters, because cybersecurity is increasingly becoming one of the main ways the UK decides what is allowed, what is trusted, and what is resilient enough to support national life. If you want the next logical piece of this puzzle, watch my video on how UK national infrastructure is monitored and protected. Because cybersecurity doesn't sit in isolation, It sits inside the infrastructure monitoring and resilience system. And if you want UK tech explained properly, subscribe. This channel is building the full map.